Hello everyone, how you doing? And welcome back to Skye and Evan in the morning. And today Evan, today you recommended a movie I love. And actually, what looking at my letterbox stats, it's like one of the movies I've watched the most in my life. Though
I
to be fair, my movies only track from 2020 onwards. I'm sure as a kid I watched Jurassic Park like 20 times, so I don't know if I'd say that. But
yeah.
yeah, it is one of the movies I've seen the most since it came out, and I
Well,
really
it's
love it.
it's funny because I'm actually similar. There's a couple of movies like this that'll like have on in the background. I'm sure like if you watch a lot of movies, you probably know what I'm talking about. That just you ever like have a movie you put on in your computer, or you just like watch and you do something else when you're quote unquote watching it. Like this is one of those movies for me that I don't necessarily need to rewatch it because I know it pretty damn well at this point. But I I have such a funny history with this movie because I watched it in theaters, and if you remember, so this was right when COVID hit.
Yeah.
It was perfectly fresh, and it was like a, "Hey, it's not that bad." I'm like, "No, we could still people will still show up in the theaters." It's like, "No, no, Chris, don't do this." And it bombed. It there's lots of reasons why, but and when it came out in theaters, everyone was criticizing the sound design, and I think aptly so because of how I do think it sounds better at home. It's one of those funny things where it's almost like a bit of film history, you know? You'd
Yeah.
only really know it if you were there, but I because Oppenheimer came out and that was just an instant everyone's like masterpiece, like amazing.
Hmm.
Say what you will about Oppenheimer, but it is a great movie and it appealed to a lot of people. Tenet was still like below the radar.
Yeah.
It hasn't it came out, people liked it, but it was like kind of like, people are there's not really been a retrospective, like, go back and, like,
Yeah.
this was actually a hidden
Well, it
gem
is
kind of a
kind of
thing, but
interesting because like a lot of the YouTubers I watch, they all like talk about how good Tenet is. Like it's like, oh, top three Nolan movies. It's like it's the type of movie that a certain
but
type
the
of person likes, but it's not the type of movie that like really got general audiences. And one of the times I watched this movie, I watched it with my parents, and my dad was just like, "Oh my god, I'm super confused. Like this movie's so confusing." I'm like, I don't even
well
think it is that confusing. I think you just like because obviously the mechanics and everything, like you know, if you say it's confusing, I'm not going to disagree with you, but it is the kind of thing where I'm like, I think you just kind of got to be willing to meet the movie halfway. Like, just enjoy it for the action movie it is, and if you actually want to go deeper, then you can, but you don't necessarily have to.
well, it's ironic too because my family hated it as well, and I get why people just find it confusing and that they don't, but what's a bit ironic about that is that Inception is similar. A lot
Hmm.
of people say, you got to rewatch Inception. You're not supposed to understand it the first time. There's things you pick up on, you'll appreciate it more. And I do think that that's true to a degree. But a lot of more people like Inception. It's why it's probably the characters. Like
Mm, that's fair.
Cobb is a better character than the protagonist, and there's this whole, like, secret agent, like, everything is so secretive, and the main character doesn't even have a name, and the performances are good, but the characters are a little lacking because it's all just one
Yeah, the
big
characters are thin. I
conspiracy,
will agree with
everything
that.
is yeah, that's probably why people prefer Inception to something like this, but but this is what I laugh at, though, and why I recommended it, because of exactly what you said, you've watched it a ton and you love it. Even though I don't, realistically speaking, even after watching it again, I still have rewatched it a lot.
Hmm.
And there's a couple True Detective season 2 is another example of that, something where a lot of people don't like True Detective season 2, but I think I've rewatched it at least 4 times. Something keeps me going back, and Tenet's like that, where even though I don't love it, I'm still interested by it. I still there's a little something there that keeps me going back, and I get a little something else out of it. And honestly, it's just rewatchability or reread or playability. I like experiences that invite you to come back for more. Those are like some of my favorite experiences in media, basically.
Yeah, it is interesting. And you were saying like, is a movie kind of under the radar, and for people watching, you may have noticed I'm, you know, trying to fiddle with like new titles or stuff like that for the podcast to see if they get more or less views comparatively. Because the last one, the um what's it called, Gemini
Oh, did
Man,
you
I
give it a
did that.
unique name?
Yeah, I gave it more like a video essay title to see, hey, maybe this will get
Ah,
more views than
I
just episode 63 or whatever. Obviously, because YouTube
I need
has
to tweet
the
that
whole
out. That was a
like
good discussion.
the YouTube has the like you can test like up to 3 different titles now if you want. The same way you can test like 3 different thumbnails and everything. So I was like, may as well.
Side note, I find that a really weird it ties into just algorithms in general, but that's such a weird thing to me that you can get optional titles or thumbnails of like, "Yeah, this is the best one for getting more views." I'm like, "Dude, that's weird that that's a thing," but I'm like, I don't know,
Yeah.
just a little feature of YouTube.
But yeah, the reason I say is because I was thinking today, like, what would I title this video? I was like, I think I'd probably title like Tenet is Nolan's most underrated movie or something. Because I genuinely I don't
That's
see enough people talking about it, and it's so fun. I love that movie so much. Obviously, we're just talking like around the topic, but it's just like it's one of those movies where every time I've watched it, I've had a blast. I keep having a smile on my face because everything about it is just so like it. Like I think the main thing with Nolan is that even though his movies are long, the pacing is so good. Other than like The Dark Knight
yes.
Rises, like his movies are so well paced that they just keep like you watch like I watched this 2 hour and a half movie and it flew by. Like it's
Well,
just like
what
full of
it
action and the fucking Neo is the best because he's so fucking funny. And fucking Robert Pattinson with a weird accent as per usual. It's just like everything
it's
about it just appeals to me. I don't know.
It's one of the best traits of Nolan. There's a lot of reasons why Nolan is said to be one of the better filmmakers working today, but just put simply, it's because even when his films aren't necessarily like the best written the or have the best characters, because I think that's a criticism a lot of people could agree on. The
Mm-hmm.
characters in Christopher Nolan's movies not that memorable, really. Like you don't they have serviceable cast, but the characters don't really stand out.
Mm-hmm.
They stand out in presentation, and the editing
Yeah.
and the whole 3 scenes at once, he does a great job splicing different stories together, and Oppenheimer, the entire movie's like that. It cuts between the future, like, certain just the whole timeline is just jumbled around in a way that still feels coherent and feels interesting, and it
Yeah,
makes
there's
what
like 3 different
could have
timelines going on at once. It's very interesting.
it could have been a dull movie if it were in order, but he
Yeah.
he told it out of order, and
I
even
mean,
when
there's
he's not telling the story
Memento,
out of
which is
order
entirely like
backwards, yeah,
backwards.
like
Yeah. I mean,
told in reverse.
not
I still
entirely
haven't seen
backwards
Memento
because
2.
there's a it's 2 timelines,
No
one
spoilers.
moving forward and one moving back, and then they meet in the final scene. Um, oh, in the third act,
Yeah,
a bit before the final scene. It's great. There's a video of him explaining it. It's kind of funny. But it's great. I love that movie. That used to be like my favorite movie of all time for a good few years. Like I really, really
I
enjoyed that movie.
I need to watch it at some point, but so getting into the actual movie, you were mentioning at the beginning, so, like, what I do think draws me to this movie in part is that this does feel like a proper secret agent movie. It
Mm-hmm.
is very Bond
It
influenced,
is.
and from the very beginning, Christopher Nolan has been Bond inspired. I'm blown away that he wasn't first in line to take on apparently Denis Villeneuve is gonna direct the next Bond movie for better or worse. I can't believe he didn't take the chance because this feels something like what he might do with Bond. In fact, maybe that's why he didn't want to do it is that he wouldn't fit into the formula. He'd be too bold and experimental, but this movie has a
Well,
Bond villain. He is full out like Russian history and like there's a Bond girl and who's in danger and like serves a bit of a damsel in distress role and he's got like the full out machine that ends the world. There's few secret agent movies like this because nowadays everyone is it's all the government that's doing something, some conspiracy, some hidden, missile, or it's usually like a hack or AI nowadays. And it's not like that's bad, but I do like the classic Bond villain who's got the device that'll, like,
Hmm.
destroy the world, and
Yeah.
this movie scratches that itch, so
It is interesting because I did say I didn't like the Bond formula when we did GoldenEye, that I felt it was a little, I don't know, boring. So just like I know where every beat is gonna go. I think it's just like the difference with this movie is that even though it is following that formula in some ways, it is also like it has the gimmick, the backwards in time gimmick, and that's what keeps it so entertaining to watch. And to be honest, the big appeal I don't think is Bond with the Bond girl. Like that's not the main relationship of the movie. It's Neo and the protagonist, right? Like those
yes, it's a
two are fucking
bromance,
awesome.
yeah.
And they're like, oh, their chemistry is great. The two actors are like having so much fun together. And Robert Pattinson is just, I love him so much in this movie. He is having the
Well
time of his life.
well, this is another thing that is missing, like, we don't get adventure movies are another example of that, and I love Uncharted for that, but secret agent movies are dying. Another thing that's dying is buddy cop.
Mm,
And this feels kind of buddy cop.
yeah,
It's not like comedy, but these 2 characters are a pairing, and they're very different from each other, and their personalities clash a lot, and it's a testament to just 2 solid actors being in this role, and I love both. John David Washington, so much charisma in
I
this movie,
love
it's
him so
insane,
much. He's such a good
and
actor.
yeah, and Neil, I just suave city, and this was early Pattinson because this was before the Batman, and
Mm,
he's still semi niche, but I do like that this was one of the earlier spotlight roles for him. He'd done good time by that point, but this was
mm.
a blockbuster, like still the pretty boy from Twilight, like shaking that reputation, and oh my god, he's so fun in this movie.
He is. Robert Pattinson is one of my current favorite actors. I love I love him so much in anything he does. He's always doing some weird fucking accent. I don't know if you've seen Mickey 17, but he's so funny in that movie.
Not yet. I That so it I always am, like, disappointed with myself with those, like, 75% on Rotten Tomatoes because like, fuck Rotten Tomatoes, but you know when a movie gets, like, reception that's like, this is okay," just like, I don't wanna but I'm like, it's Bong Joon-ho, so I'm sure it's
Mm.
amazing.
It's
I
fine.
yeah.
I was not a huge fan of it. It felt, it was way too long. It felt like an extremely like blank check movie, where it was like, oh, you don't need to cut anything out. Whereas if there was like some limitations, like no, this storyline is going
Almost
on
like
for way
Bo
too
is
long. It's like
afraid.
kinda, yeah. The difference is I really like Bo Was Afraid, but yeah,
Huh, interesting.
yeah. But
Getting back to Tenet, yeah, I
yeah, you said
let's
you say you don't love this movie, not as much as I do anyway. Why?
yeah. Well, largely because of how inversion works and how the plot works.
Mm,
This movie is a little bit similar to Interstellar, where the way time works, because that movie does play with time travel as well, even though it's going for a more like scientifically. This is definitely more sci-fi than even Interstellar, if you ask me, because it's like a technology. It's more like hard time travel, whereas the Interstellar is more manipulation of time with like
yeah.
black holes and the like. But in both movies, any questions you ask of like why did things turn out that way, it's like, well, that's because that's how it turned out that way because it turned out that way. Like predeterminism, basically, of
Yeah, both
just
movies,
it,
and that is an interesting question that I actually like the way the movie addresses it though, because like it does have the interesting thing of like determinism because it mentions the grandfather paradox and it talks about like
but yeah,
you can't walk out or you can walk into the the inversion machine, what's it called, the turnstile, if you don't see yourself on the other side because it means you don't make it. It's like
well,
like it mentions determinism, but I like what they do with having Neo mentioned at the end, like what's happened, which isn't which is like an expression of faith in like how the mechanics work, but not an excuse to do nothing. So it's basically saying like regardless
yeah.
of whether all of this was always meant to happen and it always happened because of how time travel works, it doesn't mean that we don't do things. Like, for these
Well,
things to happen, you still have
I
to do them. And it's an interesting thing because, like, I always think when I'm watching this movie, like, because of the way the time travel works and everything works out so perfectly, so neatly, and there is no, like, changing time, I always wonder, like, what are the stakes? Because we know everything's gonna be solved. But then I'm just like, yeah, but like the journey is what's important to seeing like Neo like sacrificing himself at the end for the protagonist, like that kind of thing. I don't think it's like the whole thing of like the stakes need to be the actual world will end because that's how the mechanics work. It's more of a like we need to do something, but time is already written, so we're always going to do it. I don't know. There's an interesting debate about like determinism in these movies. Like, and they ask a lot, especially in this one, of like, what about free will? He asked in the when he's
yeah,
talking about the
straight
bullet and
up.
everything.
Well, that's why I think the grandfather paradox and that moment, they're brushed aside. Her answer to that is that bullet wouldn't have moved if you hadn't put your hand there,
Yeah,
but that's not true, and that's my problem with the movie. My brother and I, when we watched it in theaters, there's this moment when he gets inverted the first time, the protagonist, and he steps in a puddle, and the puddle is clearly moving before he even puts his foot there,
yeah.
but it still happens, and what my brother said is just, "What if you didn't?"
But
And
he
it's like, well,
did. He
the
was always
answer
going
is,
to.
"But" yes, but that's my problem with movies like this, is it's like, well, that's boring though, because any choice you question is just brushed aside with the character chose to do that anyway, and
Well, it's just
it's like, well,
determinism.
that's how
I don't.
chara
I mean, I can understand if you find it a little boring. Like I said, like it detracts from the stakes because the entire point is that just them being alive proves that the bomb didn't go off. But they still
yeah.
did it. Like you can, I don't know. For me, like you can still have like a predetermined outcome, but the journey being like the interesting bit of it. I don't know.
Well, I do believe that. I mean, that ties into that's like determinism just in general. Like, even if, like, let's say someone wrote your life story, if you
Hmm.
never knew that, it's like that doesn't invalidate your life. Like, someone else wrote
Yeah.
everything for you. I'm like, you still thought, like, that sounds a little like dark, but I'm like, you still thought you had agency. I'm like, does it matter if you actually did, if you made those own decisions consciously and like someone else wrote them for you? That's like, any movie that's similar to this is like that. My problem is more so that it's hard to question any elements of mechanics because all of it is basically things turned out that way because they turned out that way, and it's just like, I don't know. I At least on an individual character, for instance, Neil. The perfect example of that is the turnstile fight scene because Neil clearly sees the protagonist. He pulls the mask off, and I mean, if you've seen a movie, you know where this is going. But I love how he gets the stab wound in his arm, and it's like, you're going to the same place. Are you not catching on yet that you were the guy that you were fighting? Like, is that still beyond your grasp of putting the puzzle together, even when you're in the same gear? But you can't ask questions like that in Tenet because they didn't happen. It didn't happen that way, so that's why you don't ask questions, because just
No, I think
th
that's a
th
valid question to ask, and it wouldn't have changed the movie if the character had just like been like, "Oh shit, this is what's gonna happen." Like, I don't know. Like, because like at that moment, that is one of the things that bothers me in the movie is
well,
that he's just like,
even
"Well, bullet wound and you're bleeding." It is like, well, you obviously should know what's about to happen. Like, you're going, you know what's going to happen. They should, but they don't, which is a little frustrating. I don't know.
yeah, and Neil even I mean, he even says, he brings that up. He's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And he basically just says like, "Hey, I wouldn't have known how you would have reacted." I'm like, "You also wouldn't have known how they would have reacted had you told him." So it's just and that's what I'm saying. You can't question this movie. It's because anything can be brushed aside with that, and it's at that point, I suppose you just ask, "Well, how is the movie just in general?" And I would say it's less because I think I mentioned in the last episode that Inception also plays fast and loose with the rules.
Mm,
The whole movie lays out the rules of shared dreaming, but when the actual heist is going down, there's shit that doesn't add up. And how much does that detract? It's like, that's to any viewer, I suppose. But this movie is very similar, where there's a mechanics to inversion, but when you start thinking about it, it becomes a mind melt. And I swear that third act battle where like one faction is inverted and the other isn't, and it's like I think there's two, right? They call it like a pincer.
Yeah,
One of their team is inverted and
the
the
other's
other
not. Yeah,
half is inverted and not. And like just
yeah. I
is
mean,
the
they constantly just
entire
call it.
enemy faction not inverted, or do they have inverted
They
people
also
too?
have inverted people. They say
Yeah, they're all like color
Aaron
coded
Taylor
with red and
Aaron Taylor Johnson explains it when he's doing the briefing. He says like there's a turnstile there, so expect inverted antagonists. So yeah.
yeah. I it's that that whole there's some insane things, like them blowing up a building
It
as
was
it's
so fucking
being
cool.
inverted
Like
into the
the
explosion. Yeah,
a building that they
I
blow up like half of it at the exact time. He's like, oh, that's fucking awesome. I love that.
yeah, I've eh, I'm sure anyone who watched the third act of Tenet, if you like your mind was melted or otherwise, you could agree there's some and this is what I'm talking about, is that this is a vibe movie. You should watch this movie as a secret agent movie.
Mm.
And the whole I'm not a fan of that line. Don't try to understand it, feel it, but genuinely, the movie tells you that early on for a reason. They kind of throw the mechanics to the wind. You're just meant to be in for the ride and enjoying it for being a spy sci-fi.
Well, the thing
And
is, I don't think the mechanics are like contradictory at any point. I just think it's like questioning the mechanics is not why you would watch a movie
well,
like
that's
this. I don't know.
that's what I was saying, is it defeats itself because any questions can just be put to determinism. Why did this character do this, or why did things work this way when things were inverted? Why didn't this character catch on? They didn't, so things
No,
work
but like that kind
out,
of thing, I
right?
think is not. I, I think those things are separate. Like I think determinism works in this movie in the sense of like I don't know how to explain it. Like I think like when you're just like, oh, why did the character not catch on or like not question that? Oh, because they never did. I think that's just like no, they should have. Like you can easily say that's a criticism, but it doesn't have to be excused by the mechanics. Why didn't character catch on? Writer that want him to. They're like, yeah, that's inconsistent with his character. I think that's fine. What I don't think like the movie's using that as a catch-all thing. I think it's just determinism. It just works in a sense of like like
Overall
the
theme,
overall
like kind of
theme, yeah,
their
like of
yeah.
like maybe you don't have any agency over your own life, but is that an excuse to just like resign yourself and do nothing
Well
about it?
well, that's why I connected it to Interstellar, is that both movies frustrate me in similar ways, where I prefer Tenet to Interstellar, but both movies have a similar sense of determinism, where things happen the way they happen. And like you said, it's not an excuse to do nothing, and it doesn't mean that it takes away your agency as a person, because you still make your choices even if your choices were determined.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I
I think you're just not
it's
a
it's
big
the
fan of determinism.
well, no, it's the I'd love to recommend The Matrix at some point as well. But that there's that line, like, "Do you believe in fate? Why not?" It's because I don't like the idea that I'm not in control of my own life. It's just I like it when stories feel like the characters have their own agency, even not even if it's just they're moving things forward based on what they choose to do. In fact, I wouldn't say Inception is a movie that feels like that. Interstellar does, but Inception feels more like Cobb is the one pushing things forward, and what's his motivation? He wants to get back to his kids. That's the whole thing.
Mhm.
But in this movie, the protagonist, and I think that might be one of the reasons why I haven't vibed with this movie. Like I said, I find the characters thinner than other
Yeah, the
Nolan movies,
protagonist is
even though I
very thin. Yeah,
good performances, not necessarily good
yeah.
characters. And I think Elizabeth Debicki's character is supposed to be the Cobb style character. That's why they give her a kid, because you're supposed to be invested in her, and it's all about her son. But I
Well,
found it
it
hard
was
to get
funny
invested in
because
the
you
kid because
get
he's
your review on Letterboxd, and you gave it like a 3 out of 10. I don't know what you gave this time, but you said like, "Oh, the movie really wants you to care about this kid, but you barely see him." But like, I really don't think so. Elizabeth Debicki cares about the kid, and we care about Elizabeth Debicki. Cat, that's the name of the character. But I like the kid. Like, we're not supposed to care about the kid. We're just supposed to understand Cat's motivation, like her own like yearning for freedom and wanting to be a good mother, which was like taken from her. Like, I think that is what the film wants you to care, not about the kid himself. Like, the kid is a non, like, it just exists as a prop for Cat as a
well,
character. It
well, I
doesn't
mean,
he doesn't exist to be like a character that you actually care about. You know, like he's yeah, I don't know.
well, I would say that it's relatively similar with, Inception is, James and Philippa is trying to get back to
Mm.
them, but he tells a story about them specifically. They show up in his mind. It's like a bit of a trauma that, like, haunts his dreams, literally, I and also there's the connection with Maul. That's what I think makes it a little stronger. Like I said, all you really get with her son is just dropping him off at school, and
But it is part of the
Seder
whole thing that
prevents.
her relationship with her kid is kind of fucked because Seder keeps like preventing them from spending time together because he's like
Yeah,
petty and
well,
vengeful.
but that's the thing is that it's a excuse to, like, why is it that way? It's basically so that she or the reason why she stays in the relationship, because the painting wouldn't quite be enough. You'd probably try to take your chances with the courts or whatever for the whole, like, forgery deal, which again is another confusing element. But she stays because of her son, and it's
Yeah,
got twofold leverage. But I don't know. Elizabeth Debicki, really good performance in this movie, but I didn't her son was the element that I cared about the least. I thought you could have almost taken the kid out and had that same the drawing thing. Maybe expand the whole, like, forgery artist to fake the painting, but, like, there's an implication that he was killed, so I don't know. I think that's my problem with the movie is that I find is the characters, and I keep mentioning that, but I find it hard to get invested in the people because it feels like the plot is moving them along rather than they're moving the plot along.
I will agree with that. I do think the characters are the weakest part, and it just feel like, why are we doing all of this? And it's like, because we're the good guys and we're fighting the bad guys. You know what I mean? Like, it's the whole like Bond thing
Yeah.
that I
Well, I
mentioned,
mean,
where it's just like, yeah, he's
well,
doing it because he's a good guy. Um, I criticized Thunderbolts for that in a video of mine, actually, where it's just like, but the difference is that is a movie that is trying to be like all about the characters, and this is more about, like you said, the vibe. It's a secret agent movie. It's a movie about the gimmick of how the mechanics of the time travel work and everything. So I think it has more going for it than just that. But I do agree that the characters are the worst part, and part of why I would feel hesitant to give this movie like like a 10. It's not
yeah.
perfect. I
Well, I
love
mean,
it, but if the characters were better, then definitely I think the movie would be better, like a lot better.
so Hoyt, like, I other elements as well, but that I love, like, I love the musical score.
Oh
I
yeah,
Ludwig Göransson is,
Ludwig.
like, one of the
I own
better.
it on vinyl. The score for this movie, it is so fucking good.
um,
Trucks in
yeah,
Place is
from
like one of my favorite tracks of any movie ever. Honestly,
Yeah, I love the opening Rainy Night in Talon as well, like, just Ludwig Göransson does those Inception horns almost like, Lauren Balfe really well, like, those "burr," like, like, bass pulling one string, he does that really well, and the score is amazing. I love Priya's theme, there's pretty memorable motifs, and Hoyt von Hodema does the cinematography, and he did amazing, or at
yeah,
least I believe, and it's I it's well shot. It's Nolan, you know what you're basically getting into, and this is definitely more on the action side than something like Oppenheimer. But
yeah.
I've it's always funny when like I mentioned, there's a couple of movies and shows and I don't necessarily love them, but I've seen them a lot, and something draws me to this movie and keeps me coming back for more. And The perfect example of that is
Mm.
the like I'm scrolling through the movie right now, and there's all this action in this third act with like inverted bad guys, and like one of the scenes that I remember, I love the scene when the protagonist sits down with Sador for the first time, and he says he's gonna take him to a garden, like cut his throat and stuff his
It's the
balls
balls
down
in
his
it.
throat.
Yeah.
It's as like I'm saying with the Bond and like this
Well,
movie having a
the
Bond
best part of
villain.
it is just how much the protagonist is like making fun of it. It's like, oh, like that feels
Yeah,
so Bond. Just be like, oh, okay, you're gonna do that to me. Ah,
it's amazing. That is nailed with John David Washington's
yeah,
performance, and I even though I do think some of Sador's lines and his character in general is a bit much, I'm glad that Kenneth Branagh just plays this up like a Bond villain,
yeah.
and
It's a lot of
that's
fun.
that is my favorite part of this movie. I'd say
Hmm.
the first, like, half and change is where I'm vibing with it, and the more they lean into inversion, the more the movie loses me. That's, like, probably the best way I
Interesting.
could describe it, and
Yeah.
not to mention it does kind of bait out a sequel and, like, a greater world, which probably
I
will
don't
never
think
happen.
so.
You never know.
I don't
You
think it
don't think
does. No, I mean, I always leave the movie thinking, oh my god, I want a universe with Neo and the protagonist, yes. But I think it's just Nolan doing things the way he does, or just like, like, he's making a movie seem bigger than it is by implying, like, the whole universe around it. Like, that's what I feel like he's doing
well
instead of just being like, no, this is just baiting a sequel. Like, I don't think that's what he was doing. I don't think he ever planned a sequel. I don't know.
well, I mean, it ties into, how the movie it's there's this idea that everything wraps around. It's almost like River and the Doctor from Doctor
Doctor
Who
Who.
with like the Matt Smith era. The sense of when she dies when they met, and then he's gonna die when he meets her. So it's a there's something like that with Neil and the protagonist, where everything
Mm,
loops around and it all connects.
yeah.
There's a theory that Neil is Kat's kid,
Yeah, I
and I'm like,
remember you mentioning that.
that's a weird theory, and I'm not sure about that, but I'm like, I don't know. I do think you're probably right that it's just more meant to connect the movie itself rather than
Yeah.
equal something.
Yeah, I think
But that
it's meant to just
I
show you something about Neo's character that we weren't able to see because that's not like part of the movie. It makes the universe seem a lot grander, I think, that whole like thing at the end. Like, I think this is the end of a beautiful friendship. It's like, oh, I love that line
mm,
so much. It's great. I don't know.
yeah.
I think that scene with them, I think it just works really well for Neo's character to seem more um like to understand him better because he's always been like along with this movie and like helping him out but hiding something, and once we figure it out it's like, oh, so like they're friends. That's cool. I don't know. I dig it.
Yeah. I I don't know. Like I said, I'm something about this movie keeps me coming back for more, and that's more than can be said for a lot of movies nowadays. Because if you ask me, nothing is worse than a movie just being forgettable and
Hmm.
just standard. And this movie, Nolan, he's almost incapable of that. He's one of those directors where even if you're watching like subpar for what they usually put out, it's still solid and worth it. And that's you're almost guaranteed that with Christopher Nolan. So
Yeah, yeah, no,
what do you
agreed.
think number wise for this? Because this
I
is one of
think I
those, yeah,
gave it a
like I gave it a
9.
3 out of a 9.
Yeah.
Damn. This is like Babylon where I'm like, I know I would have given it a bad rating when I first watched it, but I'm like I don't feel like
Hmm.
my view is really altered all that much. I'm more like 5 or 6. It's a still like on the higher end of the equation, but I'm still like middling with it because there's not that oomph that pushes it over.
Mm.
Other than, like I said, the vibes. That's
Yeah.
probably why I'm like leaning more on the 6 side because the secret agent part and like Christ, like I ordered my hot sauce an hour ago. My God,
Yeah, I love
that
that
seems
line so
iconic.
much.
Like I said, it's what I find so funny about this movie. That's what people quote from this movie. people don't quote the ending. Like, people like the secret agent stuff. That's what people vibe with the most. I'm like, "Oh, Christopher Nolan." I that's what I laugh at. I wish the man would downsize. Oppenheimer's sort of like that, but I wish he'd go back to making movies more with the budget from The Prestige. Like, that was when he didn't quite have TDKR budgets, and he's making The Odyssey next, so he wants to be big and bold, but I Tenet's an interesting one.
I don't know. I don't know. I think I like him having like the money and freedom to do whatever the fuck he wants. I think the world is better off for
Yeah.
it. Because like even if we get something
Well,
like The Dark Knight Rises, like we still get like so much like stuff that is so interesting. Like I'm not the biggest fan of Interstellar, though I rewatched it recently in on IMAX like a couple months ago, and I did enjoy it a lot more than I used to. But it like I don't know. I think just watching Interstellar, I'm like, there is something really interesting about this movie. Like it is. I think the world is better off for this movie existing, which is not to say that it's like amazing. It's
yeah.
gonna like revolution, but it's a great piece of art, regardless of whether it's like a great movie. It's a very interesting movie. So I don't
Well
know.
well, I mean, even elements, even just like No Time for Caution as a scene with the music and the way it's shot, there's
Yeah,
elements that you can definitely point to as being it's an interesting way of, like, saying it, like, the world's better off. Like, even just the depiction of the black hole
yeah.
is an
I
incredible
mean,
achievement
it's
on
kind of crazy,
filmmaking.
right? Like how much making that movie actually helped in terms of like scientific knowledge about black holes and everything, and it's kind of crazy. Like that movie has a huge impact, and I don't even think it's that great. So, though a
Yeah.
lot of people do say it's his
Uh,
best movie, it's interesting. That is one movie that I will recommend at some point, Interstellar, because it's
it's
interesting.
that's one of my least favorite from him, I'm telling you. I've watched that movie and I've tried. That movie is like 2, maybe 3 clicks down from where I am with this movie where
Hmm.
I can't even get behind the vibe, but a lot of people really love it, and I don't know.
I
Tons of
do
people stand by it being
like
his best
it,
film.
but yeah, I do have some problems with the film. I think my biggest issue is just how the film uh treats like as if the world is doomed basically in terms of like um uh climate change, and how he's just like, no, you see, we just got to move on to another world. That's the way we should do it. Like that's a super weird point of view, because like actual interstellar travel and like moving on to another planet is just impossible to like save humanity, and just does not make any sense. But that's a whole political conversation. I don't know what we're gonna get into here, but it's just like the whole thing of like the Elon Musk. No, see, we're gonna move to Mars and everything's gonna be fine. We don't need to save Earth. When it's just like, no, we're never gonna do that. We should actually just care about our own planet first. So that is one of the issues I have with that movie, is that it takes that weird stance. But
Yeah.
plus the characters are. Mhm.
Well, I imagine you'd recommend this movie if you're giving it a
I
9.
I would. I definitely would recommend Tenet. It's like I said, I'm probably gonna title this video like Nolan's most underrated movie or something. I really love Tenet. It's such a
Yeah.
vibe. It's so much fun, and the acting is amazing. The music is like genuinely one of my favorite musical scores of any movie ever. Like it's this and Babylon like up there for me. It's crazy.
Yeah, even just for the performances and the vibe and it just being a straight up secret agent movie, I would totally recommend it. It's it's never been a movie that I've really that's stood out to me that I've really wanted to pop. But like I said, I've gone back to it so many times, and there's something there for me in a movie or a show that I can go back to because I really like being able to get something out of an experience multiple times. Even
Mm,
because it's funny how that works. Even movies that are great, but you only really watch them once, and you don't ever really feel the need to go back to it in like 5 years. Well, it's like, well, that kind of sucks. It's like
yeah.
even a great movie can
There are many
not
movies like
really.
that where I'm just like, man, that was awesome, and then like a few years later, I'm like, because like I like to rewatch movies every now and then just to like give them another chance or like remind myself of what I like about the movie. There are movies that like I watch on once, I'm like, man, that was amazing, and then a few years later, I'm like, I don't want to watch that again. I just don't care. So it's just like, was it really that great? But I don't know. There are movies that are like not that great that I've seen a billion times. So it's an interesting thing for sure.
Yeah, I would recommend this though. So yeah. So you're next in line then, Skye.
Oh yeah.
What do you have
Okay.
next for us on the
So
chopping
this
block?
is this is a movie I've wanted to recommend for ages, and it's not just a movie, but it's completely up to you whether you want to watch more than just this movie or you know. But the movie I'm going to recommend is Saw. You know,
Oh,
the thing
huh.
is, right?
I
I
remember.
watched the Saw trilogy, first three, a couple years ago, and I really liked them, especially three. I thought they were great, and I was like, I I'm due a rewatch out of curiosity. And what I want to do, and I can definitely do it in a week. I want to watch the entire franchise. You can watch as many as you want. If you only want to watch the first, or if you want
I
to watch more, it's
What's
fine.
funny, I watched the first 2, last October,
Mm,
actually. I was thinking of potentially watching a bunch more, but I'd watched the 2, and it was just one of those things, it was towards the end of Halloween, I'm like, "Hey," I thought I liked the first 2 alright, but it'd be interesting to maybe watch 3 if you were
yeah.
curious to
Well,
see, like,
if
my
you are
your
able to watch the first three, then that's perfect. That's exactly what I would have wanted. But I'll try to watch the entire franchise, which is like I think 10, 11 movies, right? Because there's the
Yeah,
the
oh my
Spiral
god,
movie and then Saw X. So yeah.
well, and it's so funny, Saw in general, I always stayed away from it because most people said eventually it gets into a torture porn rut. And relatively early on, not to mention spoilers, Kramer dies in the
Mm.
3rd movie, which everyone says is like the shot themselves in the foot multiple times mistake. Like, what were you thinking? But
It is kind of
also,
crazy.
maybe
That
there
is
shouldn't be
why
a
I
bunch of
never got past the third. It's because I watched the movie, right? I watched the third movie. I was like, well, he dies, so why should I keep going? So that's why I'm interested. I want to see what the franchise is all about after the third. I want to because like people have
if
said that,
you
especially the latest one. People have said that that's pretty good. So I'm curious.
Yeah, well, they keep trying to make that movie that's, like, not quite Saw, like, they called one of them Jigsaw, like, Spiral, and it's like, "Hey, we're making the movie that reinvents Saw." It's like, I you're not gonna do that, though, you're still gonna have the puppet on the trike and, like, all the traps, like, it's still gonna be John Kramer's voice, you know? I don't know, I mean, if you could pull off watching all those, I would be curious as hell, but yeah, Saw is interesting. I stayed away from it for
Yeah.
a while,
I
but
think it
there's
has a
definitely
like a
something there.
reputation of being kind of like schlocky horror, like torture porn. But especially I think the first one. But the
Yeah,
first one and the
James Wan
third
and Lee
one, I don't.
Winnell, I
Yeah, the first one and the third one, I'm not a huge fan of the second one. It's still alright, but the second one is not my favorite. I think those movies actually have like something interesting to say, which is funny to talk about because I think a lot of people will hear that and be like, "Oh, okay, Saw has something interesting to say," but I actually genuinely think that. So I don't know. I'm yeah, I would have recommended it for Halloween, but I was like holding off on it because I was like, I don't know how many people are gonna care about the Saw franchise. But you know what? Fuck it. I'm interested in rewatching the three movies and watching the rest of the franchise. So yeah, Saw.
alright. Saw it is. Let's fucking go. I was just gonna say I've been watching Down Cemetery Road, and I love McHarren. I'm like, if you've seen my stuff, I'm like McHarren's number one shill. But that's based on his first book, and I watched the first episode so far, and it's really good. It's really well directed. I was worried it would feel too much like Slow Horses, but they're doing their own thing, and it's good stuff. They're changing the book in a way that I think will improve the story, make it better for TV, and so I would recommend that if you're curious. It's based on its own one-off book and it's on Apple TV, so maybe give it a shot.
Yeah, I'm looking at what I've seen recently on Letterboxd, and it's kind of funny because I've not seen that many great films. Like the ratings are very low. But
What kind of you were mentioning like bad horror movies? Like what kind of stuff have you watched?
well, I watched there's this movie from 2023 called All Fun and Games, which everyone says is like garbage. I didn't think it was that bad. I watched a movie called Tarot. I think I told you about that. The movie about like fucking reading the horoscopes and they all come true in some like twisted
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
way.
yeah.
And it's so much fun because it's just like the movie knows it is just like fun horror schlock, and it's like it has a lot of fun with the concept. So I like that, even though it wasn't great. Um, Jesus Christ, one of the movies I watched, The Curse of the Necklace. So that's the level of movie I'm watching recently.
Curse of the Necklace. That's so
The worst name of all time, I know. But they actually, you know what? To recommend a movie, I'm gonna recommend Drop. You know what? Because I
yeah,
was
Christopher
talking,
Landon.
yeah, I was talking about that with you, but we watched the Happy Death Day movies for the podcast, and we actually were pleasantly surprised. Um,
Well, yeah, I was mentioning it to you that I'd seen because I remember Penguin Zero recommended that movie, and what he said is, I'm like, listen, if you'd seen the trailers, you probably thought this was dog shit, but I'm telling you, and I was like, really? But I was like, I'd seen Happy Death Day, so I was like, well, I mean, those ones are all right, so maybe the movie's pretty
yeah,
good. But
it's
I
the whole thing. Like Christopher Landon, he's an interesting filmmaker because he makes these movies that always look like schlock, but are actually pretty interesting. I think Drop is not nearly as good as the Happy Death Day movies, like just not at all. But I think it
what
is actually pretty fun and pretty interesting, and it has something to say about like abusive relationships and everything. Like it's what's interesting about the Happy Death Day movies as well is that those movies have something to say, and they use the mechanics of like the whole horror, like Groundhog Day thing to tell that story. So I don't know. It's Drop. It's a very interesting movie.
Yeah, I'm curious. I should check that out. I'm like, I ever since we watched that, like I said, I laughed at. We watched both Happy Death Day movies. That's what you said. Like, there's directors that when you just look at their catalog, it looks like all they make is slop. And then when you watch what they actually make, it's like, damn, like this is not what it appears. Just
Yeah.
it's the perfect example of don't judge a book by its cover. But I want to watch more of what Christopher Landon has done because he's been making and like directing his own movies recently, but he had a writer's hand a while back, so yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Drop. I'm pretty sure it's worldwide on Prime Video. So yeah, it just dropped there recently. So yeah, I recommend that for a good thing I've watched recently.
Well, I was about to say I didn't mention this to you, but I finished the script of the video that I'm working on right now. I wrote it like out of order, so like I'd written my conclusion a while ago and actually like filmed that, like I recorded the audio, but I connected it. I like connected the first half to the second. There's still editing, redrafting, and there's a couple of things to expand on, but the script is, you know, beginning to end. I have a beginning, middle, and end now when I didn't before. And I'm already editing most of my videos. So like when I was rereading the what I had, I was like a good chunk of this, a good 60% is already recorded anyway. So and yeah, so read McCarran's books is the long and short of it, but I'm working on a book and season 5 of Slow Horses video, and it's coming together very well so far.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying working on that. And yeah, for me, I don't know. I probably my next video will be about Alien Earth as the big Noah Hawley show that I am. I need to rewatch it by myself because I've watched it with a few people. I need to rewatch it by myself and take some notes and finish reading Peter Pan. I did rewatch the Peter Pan movie, but it's
How
very
how far
different
did
from the book.
you how far did you make it in Peter Pan? Like I don't know how long it is.
I think I
I
read
don't
the
think I ever
first like
read it.
3 chapters. They were just arriving at Neverland, so it was very early on. But it's not a very long book, to be fair. But yeah,
Yeah, I would imagine it's
but it is very interesting
I
the
guess
differences. I think from like the book to the movie.
well,
The movie is so much happier, and the book is kind
yeah,
of like
Disney
Disney has a track record of doing that, right? Like taking
well,
these like
I
very dark stories and making them like
Yeah, like Grimm's fairy tales. I mean, even like Snow White. It's funny
Yeah.
because people seem to look at those as like, man, Disney was so dark back then. It's like read fucking Pinocchio, dude. Like it's twisted as fuck. It's like it's funny that those types of stories got animated or like adapted by Disney as a company. But yeah,
Yeah, so
oh,
there is
Peter
something,
Pan.
and obviously, Alien Earth is a Disney product, so it's interesting. And I don't know, I mean, I'll get into it on my video, but there is something interesting to be said about, um, the boy Cavalier like taking inspiration from the book, but actually showing the movie to the kids, of like that like little like wolf in sheep's clothing, I guess. So there is a lot of
Is that on purpose? That it is that like a creative choice that he like? Because I remember that he reads passages
yeah
from the book, but he said to have shown them
yeah he shows
do you
us the
think that's, like,
movie.
by design that
Oh, I
it
think
he
so.
gave them a more sanitized, whereas he takes the more, twisted elements from the
Yeah, I
book to heart kind of
absolutely
a
think
thing?
so. Yeah,
Ah, interesting. Ah.
yeah. So
Like I said, I think
that
it could
is
be a
a topic I will be discussing in my video at some point. So if you enjoyed that, but yeah, I don't know. I it's Noah Hawley. I've been rewatching Fargo as well, so it'll be interesting to talk about his body of work. I'm the one single fan of Lucy in the Sky in the world, so you know,
that was a weird movie, let me tell you. I'm glad you recommended it, but I was like, I get why people were just like, "Nope," because it just
not for me.
it
Yeah, I get it.
it's wild. It's wild. Ugh.
But yeah,
I'm not
that's what I'm
but
probably
yeah,
gonna work on next, and yeah, should be out in a few months, maybe.
looking forward to it. You gotta keep me updated, curious to see what you think of the book and the like, so
Yeah,
I'll definitely be sending you draft material in my video soon because I got something pretty complete to show you.
yeah. I'm also excited to see that right as we finished season 5, just as it finished airing, and I had a lot of fun with
Yeah,
it.
like, it's so funny just how ahead of the game I am. Like, I have a full year. Like, I was under. There came a time crunch, and I think I released my video either like just when season 5 came out or like right around it. But I'm like, there came a point when I was like, oh my god, I'm actually running out of time, and I wanted to release it around when season 5 came out. But I got a year, and I've already made a ton of progress, so I'm sitting pretty. So yeah,
Yeah. All right, now I think that's it. No.
yeah,
Um. Yeah, we'll catch you next week, folks, for the Saw franchise discussion. That'll be something. Definitely
yeah.
should have
I've
done that for
Skye.
Halloween, but whatever.
Skye, odds are Skye will have seen more of the movies than I, but I'm sure that we'll have an interesting just Saw in general will be interesting to talk about because there's
Yes,
so much Saw movie out there. So,
there's
all right.
definitely enough. So yeah, we'll catch you next week, folks. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.